Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Pulse of Fins Nation. I am your host Louis Sung, and it's about that time again. We're going to go right into the comments that you guys left on the last time we did this. So I sent out a tweet basically asking what are the expectations for the 2021 Miami Dolphins season. There were a lot of responses to that question because a lot of people have a lot of expectations, and most of them are actually pretty high expectations. So with that in mind, not only are we going to go over those comments that you left on Twitter, but I am going to also address the comments left on the previous video as a sort of thank you for helping to feed the YouTube algorithm. Again, if you like this video once it's over, please hit the like button and do ahead and do that. Also go ahead and subscribe, and of course leave a comment on this video as well. It helps to feed the beast that is YouTube, which is a increasingly difficult thing to satisfy. So with all that being said, let's just go ahead and get right into it. Liked the picks. Waddle is electric. Phillips, best defensive player in the draft. So I can definitely agree with you on that. As time has gone by, I've kind of gotten more in line in the thinking that yes, this was a very, very good draft class, especially in the first 4 picks. So you got Jalen Waddle as probably the most explosive player in the draft. Jalen Phillips, who could potentially be the best pass rusher in the draft. We already addressed that several times now in the last show, but it does bear repeating just because you see that they're trying to go for the high upside, super explosive potential players and not necessarily the safe picks. Now, Chris Greer's, shall we say, track record with pass rushers is a little spotty, but I think we get something here out of Jalen Phillips, and I shouldn't be too hard on him because Andrew Van Ginkel is proving to be a pretty good pass rusher, and he's not even a first-round pick. So there is that. I'm just really hoping that we can get the real next superstar, the next Cameron Wake, the next Jason Taylor, the guy that we can count on and say, yes, this can be a cornerstone of our defense for quite some time. I understand the New England way. There's no set pass rush. They generate pass rush, and we did that some last season. But there was a time where Chandler Jones was a New England Patriot, and that was some really fun times for New England because he was able to get sacks all on his own. I would love to be able to get back to that. I'm ashamed of our fans sometimes. Y'all want a running back, but for about 10 years straight, every team to win the Super Bowl had a multiple back system, but you dum-dums want a running back and we don't need it. We need a better O-line, not running backs. Well, I did say that all comments were welcome, even the ones that call me a dum-dum just because I want a star running back instead of just a meh running back. That being said, I can't disagree with the logic. Of course, the last 10 Super Bowl winning running backs, shall we say. Let's go ahead and go down the list here. So in 2009, the Saints' top running back was Pierre Thomas. Most people don't even know him anymore. 2010, Packers, James Starks. 2011, Giants, Ahmad Bradshaw. 2012, Ravens, Ray Rice. Then the list continues. Percy Harvin, LeGarrette Blount, C.J. Anderson, LeGarrette Blount, Sony Michel, there's a new one. Damian Williams in 2019 for the Chiefs, so, And then 2020, the Buccaneers, Leonard Fournette came out of nowhere, and he only made $2 million that year. So I can't disagree with the premise. Obviously, me having a top running back is not necessarily the guarantee that makes a Super Bowl winning franchise. I get that, I understand that, but what's wrong with wanting both, man? Like, for real, I don't understand why it's like, oh, well, if we just fix the O-line, then we're going to have a superstar rushing attack no matter what. I want both. I'm greedy. How about that? I'm greedy, and I want all the things. I want a really good offensive line, I want a really good running back, and I want a really good everything. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, I don't feel like that's a bad thing to want. I understand maybe you have your different priorities, but I had already felt like the offensive line had been very well addressed at this point. I had faith that Austin Jackson would develop. I had faith that Robert Hunt would develop and Solomon Kinley and all these guys. But now Miami has gone ahead and gone Liam Eichenberg and a bunch of these other guys, and they're going to battle it out, see who ends up winning. And you know what? If that's the case and Myles Gaskin is able to put together a decent season, okay, that's great. Doesn't mean I don't want more. I want more, doggone it. What's wrong with that? So this one comes from the Finn Reaper. It's just a graphic of Devontae Parker doing a little flexing there with the 6 losses added to the end. Nice little play on numbers there. But that's a pretty decent expectation, I would think. 11-6, basically one more win than last season, basically repeating the same amount of losses from last season. It's just now we have the 17-game season to look forward to. So one more week of Dolphins football. Depending on how the season goes, that's either going to be great fun or great torture. We'll find out which one it is. I sense Tua will be huge this season. The added wide receivers will be a big boost. Still need a top running back in my opinion and another pass rusher. Side note, I hold out hope that Kirk Merritt will be a good player for us. Of all the wide receivers, he has immense physical tools in my opinion. All the new guys benefit with camp. Oh, so we've got a Kirk Merritt mentioning. Okay. I can understand why you feel that way. It's just that I feel like with all the wide receivers that there's on the roster now, you still have the pretty much the shoe-ins at this point. Devontae Parker is 1, Will Fuller is 2, Preston Williams probably number 3, and then you're going to have, of course, Jalen Waddle, that's number 4. So at this point, where do you leave room for somebody like Kirk Merritt unless you're going to bring in a lot more wide receivers? There's still Albert Wilson to look at. There's still Jakeem Grant, and I know that a lot of people are upset about that. My constituents, my friends, basically everybody but me is upset about the whole Jakeem Grant situation, but, you know, maybe there's something wrong with me, but I'm not going to go ahead and admit that. I'm just going to stick to the courage of my convictions, and I still think that he has something to offer. But then you have Allen Hurns. He's not even gone yet either. So, again, I asked the question, like, where is there room for Kirk Merritt on this roster? Unless you're going to be using him as, like, a special teams player, which you could do that, but I feel like there's more room for that elsewhere. So as far as Kirk Merritt goes, I don't really see anything going there. But the wide receivers, I do agree with you on this thing. Tua, I get this inkling that there's going to be a major improvement, and the fact that we have these running backs, or excuse me, not the running backs, the wide receivers are really going to help a lot. As for the running back, yes, I still wanted that top running back. It irks me that we can't get it. And the fact that the Dolphins actually put in a claim for Kerryon Johnson and he went elsewhere, that just tells me that, you know what, they weren't done looking either. So again, why did you not address it in the draft besides Jared Dokes, which all due respect to him, but he's not one of the top running back prospects in this class. So maybe he proves me wrong. I don't know. I would be more than happy if he did that, because I would love to not have to pick the top first round running back to find a star running back. So as for the top pass rusher, hopefully that's Jalen Phillips, you know what I mean? Emmanuel Ogbah, if he has some help and they can generate the pass rush, we can kind of mitigate that. The real missing piece to the pass rush was an actual pass rusher who could beat things one-on-one. So if that turns out to be Jalen Phillips, I don't think we need to worry about the pass rush anymore from that point. To be able to tailgate prior to all home games. We can only hope, Nancy. We can only hope. I think we're this close to finally getting back to square one as far as the world is concerned. Hopefully everybody can enjoy their tailgate parties and they can have all the hot dogs and the cornhole and all the wonderful stuff that they love to do whenever these tailgate parties happen. So if you happen to have one, let me know. Maybe I'll pop in and say a quick hello. I think the Dolphins need to pay Willie Beeman to play back to Tua. Same play style. So that's the reference to the movie Any Given Sunday, and Willie Beeman is the third string quarterback and essentially the protagonist of the movie. I haven't actually seen it. I'm told it's good. I need to check it out. There's a lot of cameos in there from some former big-time players, including former Miami Dolphins wide receiver Irving Fryer. I really do need to go ahead and check that out sometime, and I think I will soon. 3 of the rookies to start. Well, I definitely can't say that's an unrealistic expectation. We have, of course, Jalen Waddle. We know he's probably going to get a lot of playing time. I don't know. It depends on what your definition of start is, because if you're thinking that he's going to be the highlight player of the offense, then I don't know if that's going to happen, because it's going to be a rotation. The whole thing is just one big rotation. Will Fuller is going to get a lot of snaps. Devontae Parker is going to get a lot of snaps. Again, Preston Williams, Jalen Waddle, and we'll see who else gets in there, because if Albert Wilson is your wide receiver 5, then that's a pretty darn good rotation at wide receiver. And then if you have 6, well, maybe it's Jakeem Grant, and even then, again, you guys hate on him so much, but whatever. If he's your number 6 wide receiver, that's not the worst thing in the world, don't you think? So we'll see what happens on that front as far as starting goes. Then, of course, Jalen Phillips. Again, he's going to get snaps, but what is the definition of starting? Because Brian Flores has like this amoeba mentality of anybody can play any position at any time and they could be doing anything. So Jalen Phillips could be rushing the passer. He could also be stepping back into coverage at one point, because he tried to do that a little while ago. Not Jalen Phillips specifically, but Flores tried to make that a thing in the defense as a whole, and Phillips could end up doing that as a result. So it really depends on what your definition of starting is. I expect Liam Eichenberg to probably get a lot of snaps. He might end up being an actual starter. That's pretty much the only thing that you can definitively say, yes, he is a starting player, because the offensive line, if you can help it, is always going to be the same 5 guys. You're not just going to rotate offensive linemen in and out all game long, because if that's what you're doing, then that means the offensive line is still broken. Everything else, though, is a rotation. So I guess if you really want to say that somebody's going to start, it would probably have to be Eichenberg. Everybody else is just kind of, well, how do you define starting? A certain amount of snaps, a certain amount of plays, a certain amount of stats? Like, what is it? Or is it just that he's the first one to touch the field when the game starts? I want to see a faster start to the season. A winning record in September/early October, too many slow starts in past years, and especially the last 2. Then I expect to push the Bills to the end of the season for the division. We should be at the point where we see results. I can agree with you on that, Zach. The time for the rebuild is over. We have essentially rebuilt the team. It is built, it is ready, it is time to go out there and produce. So we overachieved last season. We weren't supposed to go 10-6 even as it was. We were expected to go maybe along the lines of 8-8, and that would have been like this massive improvement. But then after we started winning a bunch of games, everybody was suddenly like, it's time to accelerate the process a little bit. I disagreed with that notion, because at the time, again, we were still in the middle of that rebuild. We're still developing these players, trying to build up the core that what the Miami Dolphins of the future were going to be. Now though, and this is what I said, I was consistent with this all throughout last season, 2021 is the year. It is the year. Now we see Tua. Now we're going to see Will Fuller. We're going to see Devontae Parker. We're going to see this defense that Brian Flores has spent 2 years trying to create now. So this is the time. This is when we see if all of this stuff is going to work. If we can continue to see progress, but I need to see more than progress now. Now I need to see results, just like you said. You say that we need to make sure that we can push the Bills to the division. So if Josh Allen continues to be the Josh Allen of last year, then yeah, it's going to be tough to do it, but I believe that the team has it in them to make it happen. Because if you still have Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, and now you add Javon Holland to that defense as potentially, I guess, a safety, we'll see what he ends up doing ultimately. Then you, of course, have Benardrick McKinney as the main run stuffer in the middle as a linebacker. Jerome Baker is going to be all over the place. You add Jalen Phillips to that defense, and he can rush the passer. Andrew Van Ginkel is going to get more snaps as a pass rusher. Christian Wilkins, Raekwon Davis. You can go all throughout that defense, and you see all these pieces coming together. There should be no problem with pushing for the division. And if there is, then we have to start raising some red flags here, because we have to see what went wrong, and is there a way to fix it, or do we have to prepare to try this whole process again? I'm not giving up on Brian Flores. If he ends up having a bad season, then he has a bad season. Every head coach at some point has had a pretty rotten season. I can point to Bill Belichick last season. Nobody's rushing to get him fired because he's still Bill Belichick. But last season wasn't pretty for him. So let's give some Flores some more time to actually make this work before we call for his head to roll. But I do expect to see results, and I'm not going to be happy if we don't get them. I need some time to think on that. No problem, Ron. I know that sometimes you need to think on these things, so I'll go ahead. I'll give you some time, so feel free to think about this, and then you can give me your answer. How about that?
Later.
Anytime now, Ron.
Much, much later. One nap later.
Time's up! Divisional round appearance is my expectation. Anything else is a failure. With the defense and the upgraded offensive weapons, there's zero excuse for this team to miss the playoffs, but I expect a playoff win. I'm not willing to go that far on what is considered a failure or not. For me, if we can go to the playoffs and at least even if it's just a wild card and we actually get in there, I'm going to say that that's progress. It depends on who it is that we're playing, how they are played when they get there. Because, for instance, if the Dolphins lose in the wild card round, for instance, but they play down in the last second and it's right to the wire, and it's like a field goal's difference between winning and losing, and maybe they even had the lead and they just couldn't hold it at the last moment, I'm not going to say that the season itself was a failure. They fought to the last man, they got the job done, and they got enough to actually get there. So for that's progress for me. Now, if they win, then that's even better. Now, if, let's say, they get to the wild card and they lose a la Matt Moore versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, then yes, I'm going to say that it was a failure, because you shouldn't be, that would mean that they were so bad that they basically exposed themselves and showed they had no reason to be there whatsoever. That, at that point, I would say it's a failure if that happens. So, for me, they have to make the playoffs. I'm not going to say divisional round or bust. I am going to say, though, that it is playoffs or bust at this point. So that, for me, is what I expect as far as what is a failure and what is not. So I'm not going to go quite as high as you are, but I understand why you feel that way. Go get Aaron Rodgers, and then we're Super Bowl bound. Can we please stop with the coveting of other teams' quarterbacks? I've had it up to here with the Deshaun Watson stuff. I know that Juan from 5 Reasons Sports, listen, he's my boy. I love him. But he drove me up a wall with the Deshaun Watson stuff. And now here we are. Aaron Rodgers comes out and says, I don't want to play for the Packers anymore. And now here we go again. Oh, who's the team that's best in place to get Aaron Rodgers? Oh, it must be the Miami Dolphins. Why? Why are we so willing to give up on Tua just like that? Why are we willing to give up an arm and a leg for a man in the twilight of his career? I understand he's still elite, but he's not going to be your quarterback for the next decade. Yeesh. Plus, there's a whole bunch of other stuff about Aaron Rodgers that I could do without. I'm not going to lie about that. We want to make pretend issues about Deshaun Watson's character. I get the legal ramifications right now. That I'm not even going to touch until we get the full story on everything. But as far as, he's had character issues ever since he was in college, not really. He's been pretty much a model citizen up to this point, and even then, we're not sure what the whole story is. As for Aaron Rodgers, no, he hasn't been a model citizen. In fact, he's pretty much a terrible human from what we glean from what we hear in the media and what all this other stuff that's going on. Apparently, he won't even talk to his parents. I don't even know why. I don't know if that's true or not. I think I'm not sure if that's confirmed or not, but I kept being told that over and over again. So, no, I don't want this man anywhere near my football team as far as I'm concerned. A, he's getting older. B, the moment you do something he doesn't like, he's going to start getting upset about things again, and I don't want that. He's just going to blow up the whole locker room. I don't know. Just stick with Tua, please. Can we at least get this kid a whole season before we decide it's time to dump him? Because there's going to be other top quarterbacks that are going to shake loose eventually, because apparently if they're going to keep pulling these stunts in the future, trust me, there is not going to be a shortage of quarterbacks available to trade for. 11-6 and a wild card playoff spot. This team is good. No negative Nancy can convince me otherwise. What are you talking about, man? Nancy just wants to tailgate. 12-5. Number 3 seed, victory in wild card round versus the Browns. Lose in divisional round versus the number 2 seed Broncos, as quarterback Aaron Rodgers leads them to victory. Hey, you said anything. Yes, I did say anything. I'm still not convinced the Packers are going to trade him, in spite of all the reports that Aaron Rodgers is not going to play for the Green Bay Packers ever again, or so he says. I think if you throw enough money at him, he'll be willing to do anything. That's just the way I feel about it. But yes, I did technically say anything. Getting into the wild card, winning in the wild card, and then losing in the divisional round. Again, I think that is a pretty good goal. I think that would be one of the best case scenarios for Miami, at least if we're talking about realistic expectations. 11-5, which was later edited to 12-5, with a playoff berth. Tua takes a few more steps, but the doubters and haters will still be around. Defense will arguably be the best in the division. I believe they're that good. Running game will struggle again, but survive. Waddle will be mentioned as a potential rookie of the year. That right there is pretty much my expectation as well. 12-5, playoff berth. Tua's going to take the next step forward. He's going to show that he does have what it takes to be a franchise quarterback. I don't know if he'll get there yet. He's not going to reach that elite level yet. Remember, if we're expecting Drew Brees out of him, remember it took Drew Brees a little while to really click and become the elite quarterback that we knew him as now that he's retired. If we can get to the point where he becomes that in a couple of years, then we're really set for now. So if he can just take one step forward, then he's just already going to be an elite game manager. And with the weapons that are right now at their disposal, I believe that can help a lot. As for the defense, I don't see anything that could stop them from being the best defense in the division. I really frankly don't. Every single piece that you could be looking for right now seems to be in place. Linebackers set, pass rusher seems to be set with Jalen Phillips. Defensive tackles rotation is going to be incredible from what we can tell. The corners, forget the corners. Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, you don't really need anybody else. But they got more anyway because they went and got Jason McCourty. They went and got Javon Holland. They went and they got all these players, and there are still more players developing even now. So I don't see any reason to believe that they won't be one of the best defenses in football, if not the best in all the NFL. They were pretty darn close last season. I don't think they finished as the number one defense, but at some point they were actually ranked the top defense in the league. So I'm good with that. The running game, I think with the improved offensive line, the running game is going to be better than last year. I don't think it's going to be great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's going to be decent. As far as Jalen Waddle, to expect him to be Rookie of the Year over a quarterback, boy, man. Maybe he'll be mentioned. Yeah, I like that you said mentioned, because maybe he'll be mentioned as a Rookie of the Year if he really, really produces. But come on, man. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence. You know it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. Let's not even play around about that. They're going to give it to him no matter what he does. Really. They just have to. 10 plus wins, possibly a playoff spot. Time to prove the league we're legit. Yes, Matt, I agree. It's time to prove to the NFL that we are legit, and it's time to start talking about us not in the shadow of the New England Patriots. Like while I was on the treadmill at the gym just a couple of days ago, they brought on Joe Rose and spent more time talking about the New England Patriots than they did about the Miami Dolphins. It's time for the Miami Dolphins to rise up and prove that they are worth talking about as a team and not in contrast to other teams around them. For that, I fully expect to happen. I'm really getting excited for it, and I hope that you guys are too. So, with all that being said, I want to thank you all for joining me again on this episode of the Pulse of Fins Nation. Leave a like, subscribe to 5 Reasons Sports Network, and leave a comment down below to help feed the YouTube algorithm. And I will see you all next time for the next episode when it arrives, and you will see me then.